And back to our Lich King build series. We're going to be going 27 through 30. I picked this because it should close out the bottom half of the body. It's going to wrap up the hips. I think it's going to connect the legs too, so we'll finally have the bottom half of that torso. Getting heavy. There's a lot of metal on this too. And we'll be adding, I think, both legs. We only have one leg constructed at this point, but we did do that ankle joint in some of the previous steps when we did 26, up to step 26. So we have that ankle joint. We know what the leg is going to look like. We finished both feet, so or shoes rather. So we'll be able to see how this is going to really start to come together. But let's get right into it. All right, building out our other ankle, I put the little spacers inside of these little metal covers here. This is our joint that we did in the previous step. We're putting it inside of here. And then we're going to put our screw on the inside of here. So I think the way this goes essentially is you see how the hex head is lined up perfectly in there. That's going to give us resistance when we're pushing it against it. So we might have to maneuver this a little bit to get our screw to line up there. And you might have to twist it through a little bit. Remember, we have this socket wrench from a previous step. I'm going to be using that today. So we're going to push as we twist this to get through, to thread it in. There we go. It should just push in once we, or eventually it should push in once we get it. But it is a little tricky here. All right, so once we get it all the way through, I'm hoping that that will just push through that extra little bit. That's a little tricky. Anyway, we get this on the other side. We're going to be putting on our washer, our locking washer, and then our nut here. And then we should be able to crank this in and secure it. So hopefully you didn't throw out this little tool, because it will be a lot harder to do this without it. You're going to have to get some kind of some very tiny wrench in order to pull this off. But eventually what you want to do is secure this in, and you can see that went down a little bit on that side, so that's good. I pulled it in a little bit. Now I'm not sure how tight you want this. I think tight enough, but you want the joint to still move, so that might be too tight. So I'm going to back it out a little bit. You want it to move a little bit. There we go. You want it to move a little bit. This feels a little loose. So you're just going to have to find a happy medium, because you don't want the thing, it's a little loose still. You don't want it, you know, sliding around on you when you're trying to pose it. But at the same time, you want to be able to actually pose it. So whatever you are comfortable with, I think is the answer. So I'm making this just a little bit tighter. I want it to feel like it is stuck in position once I get it somewhere. So once I'm happy with it, I'll give it just a little bit more of a turn. Okay, once I'm happy with it, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this here and I'm going to put it around on both sides. You can see the groove here on the bottom should line up with the groove at the top here. And that's one side. And then you get the other side on here. Oh, I'm sorry, the groove should line up obviously with the part that protrudes through. And then you get the other side here. And then it's just going to go like this. Now this feels like this is incomplete because the rest of this step is putting it into the new ankle holder. So you're going to go toward the bottom, obviously here, and you're going to put it in a manner that lines up with these holes. And I believe it goes, let's see if it goes down. I can't remember if it goes down or up. Depends on the, yeah, I think it goes this way. Because what you want it to do is, there you go, line up with all these holes here and slide down into the top one. So then you have your little screws here. These ones with the kind of the big washers built onto them, we're going to hold it in place here. And then you have a tinier one that goes in the top because there is kind of a, like a shelf there to hold it in place. So as you put them in, this will secure it together and you will have it all locked in place. So let me get that and then we'll move on to our next step. All right, building the, I guess the hip joint. We had a little problem with this last time. Let's see if we have the same problem again. You're gonna put the spring in here like this. You're gonna put this, it only goes in one way like this. Then you're gonna put this on top of here and you're gonna secure it with some screws. After that, we end up putting this in here. You can hear it click, 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 click. it's going to need a pin. I think what I ended up doing would really help me was not paying attention to the instructions, but putting the pin in first before you put the tension on the line with the spring. That really helped because you're kind of trying to fight the spring, trying to fight the everything here as you're doing this, and it was just a lot easier to kind of put the pin in while this was lined up. Now I also needed to hit it with a hammer because it does not go through on its own. So I recommend you hit that with a hammer just to get it started at least and get it all the way through to the end of this to get it to sit. But it's basically going to look like this. I'll put the screws in, and then you're going to assemble this part here. It should line up perfectly. There's only one way to put it together. And there will be a screw to keep this one together as well, right here. And then this will sit on top of this, and then we're going to be putting it inside of this leg at the top part, and we have some screws to mount it to here as well. So just giving you a sense of what this is going to look like. I had to do this hammer part, but let me get that joint and then we'll take it the rest of the way here. So I got that pin in, and then I put it all together, held this down while I put in the top two screws. I use a Torx screwdriver here with a very fine head just to get the pressure on to get this cap flush, because you're just not going to be able to get enough grip on this. You're going to start stripping the screws. So once you do that, you just mount it in here with 3 of these. And then you get that plastic part we assembled I just showed you, and you mount that on here. Now that will come with 2 sets of screws, JM and KM. How you can tell what you need. You only need 2 for the top here, and they give you 3 in the bag, and you only need 1 in the bottom, and they give you 2 in the bag. They always give you 1 more than you need. So that way you don't mess up your screws. You just know if I have a count that is 1 more than I need, that's probably the screw that goes exactly there. So now we have that joint. Let's test it out. Here we go. Moving. We don't hear any jiggling. Everything's nice and tight. You shouldn't hear any jiggling. So make sure all your connections are tight, particularly on those metal parts. You don't want this hip joint or moving around here. So the next part here is we just have our cover. Our back cover, unlike the front, which is metal, is plastic. It's just going to sit on here. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws to connect it, and we have, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws to connect it right here on this side, on the metal side, connected to the plastic. And we have 7 screws in the bag. So again, keeping consistent with that observation there. So we'll mount it all together. We'll have our completed calf and leg essentially here, our shin rather, for the front half of the body. So why don't I do that, and we'll get over to our next step, which is putting the hips together and connecting all the legs. Okay, almost done. We're now on to 31 and 32. We have part L here and part R. And these need to line up with your L and R on this side as well. So this is our left leg. This should be L. This should be R. Very simple here. What we have now is we have 2 identical leg parts that we built in previous steps. Now, before we go anywhere, you want to make sure you don't hear a jiggly sound when you shake these. That means you didn't secure these properly to the metal calf. That's a problem. So you want to make sure, if you didn't do that, open these up, go back in, use a screwdriver, like a ratcheting screwdriver, get more torque with a longer handle on it. Make sure those are solid. You do not want to have to go back and fix this later on. You want to do it now. So basically, we're going to take these legs, we're going to be putting them on here, in like this. We're going to be putting on our left and right covers, like such, and then this one's going to go on here. Now this is the front, so you want the calves facing the other direction. Right here, there we go. We're going to put these screws in, 1, 2, 3, 4 on each side. That will secure these in place. And then we're going to put these covers on. This is left. Oop, I got this backwards. I'm sorry. So the legs don't matter, but the covers matter. So this is, these parts are identical. What happens here is these parts are what matters, because this is left and right. Facing us here, left, right. You want to make sure those all line up properly. Now we have right cover. See how that lines up on there? It wouldn't work if it was the other way around. And boom, boom. And now we have the completed lower torso. So let me get all these screws in place and we'll see what it looks like when we have our lower torso complete at this point. Well, at least the infrastructure. We're going to put a lot of other parts into this, but for right now, we're going to have the lower torso all together and we have half his body. And then we even have the feet, so you get an idea of what that looks like, although we're not attaching those right now. So let me get those screws in, we'll check them out. And there we go. We have our bottom half of our Lich King, at least his mechanical torso here. You can hear the joints as we start to rotate his hips. We're going to have articulating knees. The legs can pivot here too. So this is all the work we've been doing is starting to come together, and we're getting a sense of what this guy is going to look like. Now we have the feet. Remember, we built these in previous steps. All we need is some kind of pin to connect these into here, and then he will be able to stand. And then we'll have this entire bottom portion built. Now we have these two. These will be attaching at some point onto things like this. So then we'll really start to see what this guy looks like. But this is only half, barely even half. We still got parts here to put on, but you get an idea of how large this figure is going to be. Like, very large. So pretty cool. We're starting to get some of that detail on the outside part of this, the shelling here. But now that I said this would pick up after we got the shells together, and now we have the shell together, all that's going to go on top here is going to be the decorative bits. Like this is the inside, this is it, it's metal and plastic. We still have the upper body to build. That's going to be quite a torso, I'm sure, because it's going to have to support things like this heavy armor that will be going on it too, and then the head all the way at the top. So we got a ways to go. But yeah, it's nice to see this thing starting to come together now. All the time we spent on all these little parts, now you can see as they get together, become part of the whole, you get a better idea of the scope of this guy. So that's all for our Lich King build this time. We'll have more as we continue this. Like I said, it's going to be, it's an 18-month build, I believe. So we have a lot more stages ahead of us. But you're getting a pretty good idea that we've made a lot of progress now over the past, I lost track of where we are, 6 or 7 months. But yeah, he's starting to come together. So pretty cool. Available on Fanhome. If you want to grab this one, it's going to take you a while to catch up to us because they don't send it all to you at once. They send it in packages and assembly waves. So it takes a little while. We're up to wave 8, I believe. So we got a ways to go, but you get a good idea of him starting to come together now. He's starting to look more impressive. So that is all for this time. Like, subscribe, and follow. See you guys next time.